child of Dr. Noonien Soong. However, those who remember the woman who was Data's quote-unquote mother, Dr. Juliet Tainer, Juliana Tainer, excuse me. He said that he is not Juliana's son, that he is from an earlier unknown relationship that Dr. Soong had. So that's a little bit of a newer thing for the Soong family tree that we didn't know about apparently. And then also worth noting that the synths that we see in this episode that appear to be twins, they are twins. So like the two synths Arcana and Saga that are to be twins, they are played by real life twin sisters Jade and Nikita Ramsey. So they did actually. It's two actors playing two different roles, not the same actor as we've seen Issa Briones doing. So, yeah, a couple guest stars in this episode, and if you gals are ready, we'll just dive right in.
Yeah,
cool.
Make it so.
Yeah, make it so. So in our first scene here, we pick up right where the previous episode left off. La Sirena is in the transwarp conduit, and everybody's kind of like, whoa, that was a bumpy ride kind of a thing. They do exit at Soji's home planet, and Agnes is like, hey, what happened to DS-12, and am I still under arrest? And Rio says, well, we've had a change in plans. Picard says that they've come 25 light years in 15 minutes. So then Narek's ship comes through the conduit right after them. He's firing on them. We get some space battle action happening. But his ship is like phasing in and out. And they're like, well, we should beam him to sickbay. His life signs are weak. But when they try to do that, they realize that his real ship is actually behind them. He's been firing on them, but he projected like a holographic image of his ship through his cloaking device. Which is pretty cool, actually. It's a really good diversion. And then right behind him comes the Borg cube, which now looks to be pretty functioning, not derelict anymore. And so it looks like we're about to have some epic battle, but instead we get these 5 ships that approach from the planet, and they look like giant orchids. And they're actually really beautiful looking, very, very pretty. And we see the theme of orchids being carried throughout this season, with Daj and Soji talking about their father loving orchids and creating new species and naming them after Daj and all that. But yeah, these orchid-like ships, they envelop the ships and knock out the power, and they basically bring them down to the planet. So that it kind of just stops that space battle, cold. And then Picard kind of loses consciousness, and then I have to say, the first time I saw this, I thought someone had taken control of his body, like an alien being had was controlling him and saying thank you everyone for coming.
Me too. That's what I thought. I thought they were sort of addressing everyone on behalf of someone else.
Which is a thing that's happened many times in Trek, right? Like an alien being will take control of someone's body and be like, my name is Andor and you're welcome to my planet. And it's like that kind of thing. And I thought that's what was happening. And then I watched the whole episode and I'm like, but wait a minute, what? They didn't explain what happened to Picard. And I'm like, oh wait, he just got knocked out and then was confused. Like, because he's really old and has a brain problem. That's what happened.
Because he's old and he's sick and he's dying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it was a little confusing. I'm not gonna lie. It was just a little odd. But that's kind of how the scene ends, is that him saying thank you for coming, everyone. So in our next scene, now Picard's in sickbay. And but he's having kind of like flashbacks to before he left, and we see him talking to his doctor again, and being on the being at the vineyard, which feels like ages ago, right? Like that was only like what 6 episodes ago or so, but it feels like forever. And Dr. Girardi is like checking him out with an old school tricorder. And she's trying to find a concussion. Like, that's what she thinks happened to him, that he had a concussion. And she's like, I think the tricorder is just really old. It's showing me something else. And Picard's like, no, the tricorder is probably fine. Because obviously, they picked up that he's got a brain abnormality, which is leading to his disease progressing. So then Picard goes on the bridge. He tells everyone he's going to take Soji back to her people, warn them about the Romulans, and he tells them basically very plainly, matter-of-factly, so no big deal, but I have this terminal brain disease, and I'm going to die from it, but you know what? I don't really want to talk about it, and don't treat me like a dying man, otherwise you're going to piss me off. So... he's very like matter of fact about it. Like he doesn't seem to be terribly reacting to it, but I think that's kind of just Picard being Picard.
Yeah, this is probably the most Picard I've seen him be.
Mm-hmm.
In how I think of him in early TNG, probably. It's the least sort of touchy-feely he's been and the most business Picard he's been.
Well, he's getting back into the swing of things now that he's been in space a minute, you know? He's not sad, emotional Picard writing his history books or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's Captain Picard, not Vineyard Picard.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, so he, and you could see that like Raffi is visibly upset. She's trying to hold back tears. And everybody else is kind of just like, okay, all right then. So then Soji, it says that they are about 5 to 6 kilometers away from Capella Station, which is like the only settlement on the planet. She says that she briefly remembers living there. She thinks that she lived there for a little while before Maddox took her and Daj away. And Agnes asks her, do they hate us? Like, do the synths hate us organics, basically? That's what she's really afraid of. And she says, no, they're a lot like Data. They're open-minded, unprejudiced, and free of bias. Which, as the episode progresses, you kind of see that maybe not all of them are like that. And specifically talking about Sutra, how she, and then again, too, an argument could be made that she, and we'll talk about it more when we get there, but like how she reacts to seeing the admonition for herself and what that kind of means for all the synths living on that planet. So then they realize that they've got like a day or two before the Romulans arrive. And when they step outside, they can see that the Borg cube has crashed. And in the opposite direction, Picard wants to go to the artifact to see if Hugh and Elnor are still okay. Spoiler alert, Hugh is not okay. And they decide that they'll stick together. They're not going to Scooby-Doo this and split up, but they're going to stick together and go to the Borg cube first before heading to the synth settlement. Alrighty, so then they get inside the Borg cube. Obviously, everything's a mess, and you just kind of see the XBs walking around, doing repairs. And again, one of them calls Picard Locutus, which is always so, like, jarring, of course, for Picard, right? Like, when one of these ex-Borgs call him Locutus. But then we do see Elnor. He's reunited with Picard. And 7 of 9, of course, is there. She's like, are you here to help? I know! He's so happy to see Picard. I do want to talk a little bit about Elnor here, because I was so excited when they introduced Elnor, and they introduced this Kohat Malat that he's a part of. It's the way of absolute candor and all of that. And they brought him on as like this warrior that was going to be at Picard's side. But they've really separated him from Picard for most of the episodes that he's been on. And again here too in this episode at the end, and I'm sure that he'll show up again in the next episode, but at the end of this episode, Picard again leaves Elnor behind to help and protect the XBs. And I'll be honest, I don't think I really care for that very much, of him always leaving Elnor behind. One of the things I was so excited about was to see him sort of like be Picard's bodyguard. What do you all think about it? Do you feel differently? Do you feel the same? Had you not thought about it until I brought it up?
Yeah, I didn't think about it, actually. Gosh, thanks, Rebecca, for making me think about something.
I love him as a character. He's one of my favorite characters. He's just like a big puppy. And he has so much potential of things to do with him. I was a little bit sad at the thought of when he left him behind originally on the Borg cube with Hugh. I was like, okay, so we're never going to see him again. No, his story can't be over. But then we've not really done anything with him again since, and that makes me quite sad, because there's so many things that we could be doing with Elnor's story. But then it's maybe just not his time yet. There's not story to tell for him yet. And they're just sort of keeping him on the back burner because they're sort of setting him up with Seven of Nine so that we don't lose him. Because there's not a contribution he can be making right now to the story. But there is somewhere he can be to continue a contribution. So I don't think we're going to lose him completely, but I don't think the rest of his story is with Picard now, sadly.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to lose his story either. And certainly the fact that they, keep, flashing to where Elnor is to show us like what he's doing, it tells us that, of course, he's still part of the story. I don't know. I do agree with you, Faye, that they did introduce him, and then it's almost like they've put him on the back burner a little bit, and I don't know. I feel a little frustrated by that in this show. It doesn't mean I watch the episodes and I hate them. It's just it just is a little frustrating to me because I'm like, okay, you introduced this really amazing character who could do. It's almost like what they did with Worf in Next Generation, right? They introduced a Klingon in Starfleet, the only Klingon ever in Starfleet, and he's on the Enterprise, and then they never give him anything to do. Or when he does want to do something, everyone always shuts him down. Like, no, don't do that. No, not now. No, don't fire phasers. No, don't raise the shields. So I kind of feel it's like that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got some really kick-ass fight scenes out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the beginning.
And we could get some more spectacular fight scenes out of him, but I don't think we're going to, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I'm sorry, Brooke. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, because I was wanting to be positive and hoping that we definitely would see more.
I hope so too. Like, I hope in the last episode, because certainly the way that this episode ends, it does set up the potential of two huge forces coming together to have some epic fight. And certainly, I would hope that the fact that the Borg cube is still on the planet, you've got Elnor, you've got Seven of Nine, you've got ex-Borgs who are potentially available to fight, that they would be available to participate, and maybe we get some really cool scenes with Elnor. So, but yeah, I mean, here, they're on the Borg cube, and What is cool is that they do get long range sensors working, and Raffi and Rios do see that there are 218 Romulan ships on their way, and as the Romulan fleet to come and destroy this planet. Which is it's a huge force, right? Although Raffi does say we only have to worry about the first 109, which she's not wrong. I mean, those are the ones you really got to worry about.